intentionally do bad, then when you intentionally do good, God gives you 10 rewards. When you intentionally do bad, you only one reward. One bad thing is recorded in your account. That's what I think Ali Dawa was alluding to. Yes. So, like I said, He gives you tenfold more than you deserve.
He's quite. Okay, you've got a very optimistic view of God. To me, everything you're describing is a very optimistic view of a moral God who wants the best for you and everything.
And there's one,
which is great.
Yeah, there's one more important.
There is still this hell punchline.
Yeah, but like I said, look, if it's up to you to decide, Tony. It's not up to. You cannot blame God for it. It is like me saying, okay, there is a hole over there. I've marked it clearly. Yeah, I've marked it clearly. Okay.
Yeah, continue, John, listening.
You're too close if you don't mind.
Okay.
Don't interrupt. Excuse me. Don't interrupt. You know it?
No, not.
Okay.
But the way he's in.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, if I've marked it clearly, I've given you a neon sign for you. Yeah. Okay, don't go there. It's danger. And you say, no, it's okay. Let me walk towards there. Let me take my chance. Let me risk it. Then who is ultimately to blame? See what I mean? So the moral God is always looking for you to go to heaven, to go to paradise. He has marked everything for you very clearly. In fact, even the exam paper which the teacher didn't give you and you had to sit the test, He's even given that to you. You see what I mean?
I get everything you're saying and I like all of the description, except I don't want to be disingenuous. On this point, we still may have to agree to disagree.
So what is your objection after
my objection is
all this? Okay. I think you're worried about the eternal hell. Is that right?
I'm worried.
Is that your main objection?
Earlier in this conversation, if you rewind, I think you said you were into self-consistency. The principle of self-consistency. Yes. It's my faith in that. We also mentioned that you have to have faith in the core axiom at the beginning of your thinking. So my primary faith is in I am, because it's unavoidable. My next faith is in I'm in a self-consistent universe, yes? So when I'm presented with contradictory data, I'm using my God-given mind, and if I'm presented with certain statements
so which
about
part is
God,
inconsistent?
The merciful, loving, just. Thank you. The merciful, loving, just. I'll have an infinite hell with a God who isn't merciful, loving, and just. But I can't have an eternal hell with a God who is those three things.
Okay.
And I would rather.
And that's the reason I asked you earlier. How long do you think humans should be punished for? Say, for example, Hitler. Hitler, who killed millions of people, at least, well, not him personally, but because of him, millions of people died. How long would you punish Hitler for?
Am I allowed to answer it as vaguely as this? I'm not sure, but a number that's less than infinity.
Okay, and how much is that?
I just.
Let's say 1,000,000 years? 1,000,000 years is less than infinity. Is that okay?
Okay, I'll go with this. 1,000,000 years would be better than infinity for me. Definitely 1,000,000 years. But I personally think.
But think about it. Think about it before you answer it. Are you okay with Hitler being punished for 1,000,000 years?
I personally am not.
Is it? See what I mean?
No, I think it's too much.
That's exactly my point. So you will never, as a human being, be able to quantify how long an individual has to be punished. Because you see, as a human being, you don't know the consequences of Hitler's actions upon every one of these millions of people he killed.
But hang on. But if you backtrack in our conversation, when you said, should you always be honest? And I said, no, because I'm a deontologist, not a consequentialist. And you seem to agree with me. If you're a deontologist, then you give that precedence and you just put forward an argument which is consequentialist. Because, if I have to calculate all of the consequential damage Hitler did, it's massive. However, because I'm a deontologist, I'm looking at the damage he did from the point of view of his intent. And I'm looking at it from the point of view that he got born as an innocent child, I take it, and that he then made finite bad choices, his environment conspired, and I'm judging on his intent. If his intent wasn't infinitely malicious, God knows I'm not picking up Hitler, let's be clear.
Sorry, what do you mean his intent wasn't? No one can have an...
That's my whole point. If you're a deontologist, then you can't have infinitely malign intent, then it wouldn't be reasonable.
But that doesn't even make sense.
Well, if you're going to punish somebody infinitely and you believe that the test of something is in their intent...
No, but I asked you, even finite you didn't agree with. I asked you, okay, 1,000,000 years, and you said no.
No,
So it's not,
no,
I
no,
think
no, no, no. What I said
you don't
was-
have a problem with just
what I
infinite.
said was
I
I
think
think
you
a
have a
million
problem
years-
with even finite.
No, I have
It seems like.
I have a problem with disproportionality, and I don't claim that I can pick
So
the
what is the
exact sort-
what is the proportion what proportion of punishment would be satisfied to have to give justice to the victims of Hitler, for example?
I think that
You can't compute it. Come on. It's
no, you can because I'm not a consequentialist, and nor are you. Because I'm looking at his intention, and because he's a finite.
You can never know his intention.
No, I can never know it, but I can know that he had it, and I can know that as a deontologist, whatever that thing was, call it X. That's what I must judge him on. But what I can know is X is a finite amount. And therefore, he's born as a fallible finite entity. X is a finite amount, and therefore, whatever consequences are proportionate to X, it shouldn't be an infinite amount.
So what is it? That's the question.
I don't necessarily have to answer. It's like algebra. I don't know what X is, but I know what the rules governing
No,
X are.
in order for you to be satisfied that yes, the victims have been given justice.
I'm not trying to give the victims justice.
Do they deserve justice?
No, because that's consequentialism, and I'm not a consequentialist.
No, but I'm asking you, do they deserve justice?
Yes, ideally, but it's secondary because I'm not a consequentialist.
I know you're
don't
not,
think-
but I'm asking you because you said you want to be consistent.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you to be consistent now. Because you believe, and I believe as well, that the victims of Hitler or whoever the tyrant was, their victims deserve justice. Killing him once is not justice. Do you agree?
No, then you are a consequentialist. I don't see it in that framework.
Okay, so
I
how
think-
do you see it?
I think
I
that-
want to know how you, if you were, let's say if you're not God, if you were a judge and you had to establish justice without a single person feeling that, okay, I haven't received justice,
Yeah.
what would you do?
I don't even frame it in that context. And it's interesting for us to realise this about there are certain basic premises that we come from which are different. For example, in conservative Islam, it's got its extrinsic, I see got its intrinsic. In this framework, you see the function of justice as being compensation for the people who've been hurt.
Yeah, the
You think
victims.
that- right, which is, I believe, a consequentialist position. You're looking at the negative consequences of an action and how it affected people, whereas I'm primarily looking at it from a deontological position, which is it's about the intent. Therefore, if someone drives a car down a road and mows down 100 people, the consequence is 100 people suffer. No question, that's consequential.
How does intent come in that?
My intent is...
What if it was an accident? He didn't intend to
Exactly,
kill.
that's my point.
Yeah.
So I'm going to judge the guy differently based on if he went down that road and he chose to run down 100
What if
people.
you didn't know the intention? Because you can never know the intention.
No, we'll come
So say for example, somebody who's drunk in this country, yes, and he does that, yes, his punishment won't be the same as someone who was sober.
Exactly.
See what I mean? Now the question comes about intent. So maybe this guy, he drank and he was conscious, yes, of what he was doing. He was completely in control. Yes, maybe he has a greater tolerance than somebody else who drinks
I agree.
that amount.
I agree.
So you see, intention is something, Tony, you can never judge. Neither can I,
but
because we can never know this.
But as a card-carrying deontologist, I don't have to know someone's intent to know they had it. When the guy drives the car, let's see what we can agree. Here's three simple scenarios. Option one, he went, I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to try and mow down 100 people, and he didn't. Yeah, that's one kind of intent.
Deliberate.
Deliberate. That's deliberate intent. Second kind of intent is he gets in. The second option is he gets in the car, trying to go for a drive, and through no fault of his own, just because whatever happened, he happened to kill 100 people.
Accidental?
Yeah? Okay, effectively accidental. Yeah. In the middle of those, there's another one, which is he gets drunk first, gets in a car. He didn't want to run anybody over, but he'd made some decisions which, if he was being honest with himself, remember honesty is a virtue, he wouldn't have done because he should know he's... So that's a sin of kind of omission, yeah?
Well, it's taking risk basically.
Yeah.
So you know that drinking alcohol will impair your judgment, and as a result, you will cause harm to yourself and others. So he's taking the risk. So this drink driving is definitely intentional as well, I would say.
Yes, but it's less... So in the hierarchy
Yeah,
of ways
that's-
I'd look
yeah,
at
yeah.
that. The guy who gets in the car and deliberately does it, he gets a worse...
It's different, I agree.
He gets worse punishment than the guy who was negligent through drinking, who should still be punished. But the person who just had an accident, they shouldn't get punished. But in all three of those scenarios, 100 people are dead and there's 100 grieving families going, how do I get recompense? But I, as a judge, have to look to the intent of the sinner, not to the consequence.
But you can never know the intent of the first one,
I
can
agree,
you?
but
It could be that maybe, for example, he wanted to save a child and he managed to kill 100 people.
Yeah.
Yes, which he didn't intend to.
Yeah.
But how will you, as a judge, as a judge, know this, that he did it deliberately or he did not? He wasn't drunk. Yes, the judge, let's say he died in this accident.
Yeah.
Yes, let's say he died in this accident. The judge, how will he know that whether he was a victim himself or he was a perpetrator of this? How would he know? He wouldn't.
This is where we come into another thing that happens in these debates, which is epistemology. In a lot of these discussions...
Sorry to put all these spanners in the works, but it's not impossible.
Thank you.
Lovely chat. Appreciate your input. That was really cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Epistemologically, in a lot of these discussions, people go, how do you know? I'm not coming from a position where I expect 100% cognitively know, okay? So I have to make a best guess. You make wise guesses. Now, all I can think I can be certain of is, number one, the guy had an intent.
Abbas, sorry. Abbas, come this way.
Hi.
You know Tony, right?
Yeah. I think I've met him before.
Yeah, just come this way, so...
Hello. Yeah. So, I think I can know with some confidence is, number one, the guy driving the car had an intent, even though I don't know what it is. Now I am beholden on me to do my best to try and guess what his intent was, and then judge him and I have to.
Tony, you can't.
I have
what
to.
You're
That's what a judge
when
does.
you say that I'm going to assume his intention.
I'm saying I'm assuming he had one. As a point of fact, he had an intent.
Everyone has to have an intent.
Exactly, so I'm just trying to say things which we can definitely agree on. We know the driver had an intent. We don't know what it was. Let's call it X. We know that as a judge, my job is I have to do the best I can using the principle of self-consistency to try and guess what his intent was, given I can never know, because I can't.
Exactly.
And then once I've done my best honest guess, I then have to punish him proportionally and accordingly. Yeah? And we've agreed that in the hierarchy of damage the guy could do driving the car, he'll always kill 100 people, but in the first example, his level of intent was very high and he should have more punishment. In the second one, his level of intent was negligent, and I would argue that would be, say, second manslaughter, and he should have less punishment but still be punished. In the third example, maybe he just had a stroke at the wheel, not his fault, I'm very sorry 100 people are dead, and I get the families are angry and they want to believe that this guy was responsible. But if you look at it deontologically, he really wasn't. Okay, I had a stroke at the wheel, and I know it had a horrible impact on you, but that's because we live in this somewhat tragic, random universe to a certain extent, and you've got to take that stuff on the chin.
So as a judge, you will try your best to serve the best justice.
Yeah, so all I'm arguing for is proportionality.
But imagine if you knew the intention 100%. Would you be a better judge?
Okay, hang on.
Sorry, we are discussing about, because Tony, mashallah, has got
Interesting.
pretty much a lot of things in common with Islam, but the only problem he has, or the main objection he has in this part of the conversation, is to do with eternal hell. And I'm sure you've come across this. A lot of people discuss this.
It's an interesting one.
Ultimately, the thing here is this. Who better to judge? No, hush.
No, I'm just going to stand.
Who better to judge the gravity of anything better than the one that created you or me?